born and raised here in Braddock. He worked at the mill that we can see from where we are sitting, and he walked the streets outside our door right now. Out of This Furnace is not just a novel, it is a powerful narrative that resonates deeply with the heart of America's industrial heritage. It was published in 1941, and it serves as a powerful reminder of the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of the immigrant experience, particularly in Western Pennsylvania in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Through its pages, we are transported back in time, immersed in the struggles and dreams of those who lived and toiled here. Out of This Furnace is a literary treasure that connects with its readers, reminding us the importance of preserving our collective history. Let us celebrate Out of This Furnace, a literary work that continues to inspire and enlighten us in an appreciation of our shared history. Funded this project, funded the marker, and on behalf of all the students here and the staff that's here and the district as a whole, I would like to thank the Woodland Hills Foundation for their long-standing support of educational projects here for our students. So thank you, Woodland Hills Foundation. If you look on the back of your program, there's actually their logo and a website there, so you can go there.
Governor Shapiro sends his regards, and the commission, the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, sends its best wishes for success for today's activities. Also with us today is Rob Malley, one of the commissioners. Rob, where are you? There he is, Rob Malley, who was born in Braddock and has deep roots here in this community. Talk to him about some of his childhood experiences here. But it also recognizes the immigrant community that came together here that serve as the backbone for our community at a very pivotal time in American history. Bell's novel goes right up to the eve of World War II. And during World War II, Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh became the arsenal of democracy. Pennsylvania steel mills turned out more steel than all the Axis powers put together, just from Pennsylvania. This was a 24/7 community. There was an orange glow that came from the Edgar Thompson works then that never stopped. And yes, the air was full of that acrid smoke, but people smelled that and it smelled like victory to them. They were winning World War II and transforming America. So this marker reminds us of a lot of things. There are 2,600 markers all over the state of Pennsylvania now. Since the 1940s, they've been going up. But this one is special. And I want to congratulate Kevin and all those here who worked on getting this marker dedicated here in Braddock. Congratulations to you all. I'll turn it over. I won't take any more time.
Representative Salisbury from District 34, right here in Braddock.
Thank you. So I've only been the state representative for about 7 months, but in those 7 months I've had a lot of full circle events where something happens that calls back to something earlier in my life that I never thought would come up again. So shout out to my 9th grade English teacher, Claudia Skirlong in Fairview, Pennsylvania, up by Erie, for having us read Out of This Furnace and impressing upon us the importance of not just literacy, but what she always told us to remember was cultural literacy. Because it's important not just to remember that we read books for the story, for the content, but also they represent a snapshot of a picture in time in many cases. They represent a snapshot of a culture, of a lifestyle, and that's what Out of This Furnace is. It's a period of time that probably we'll never see again here, but it is something that we have to remember for cultural literacy. And even in the name of the author, that's a name that he anglicized to perhaps be more accepted in the United States Anglo-Saxon predominant culture. He changed his name perhaps to become more accepted and might look better on the cover of a novel. I'd like to think that today we would accept someone and their literary contributions no matter what their name and no matter what their ethnic heritage or their origins might be. So to me, I really think this is an exciting full circle event because certainly when I was in 9th grade, I never thought I would grow up and end up being a state rep in Pittsburgh and show up at a dedication to the novel that I was reading. But the average American after they graduate from high school will never read another book in their life. So that's why it's incredibly important that we emphasize reading these types of things in our curriculum. I just got back from Harrisburg last night, and a colleague of mine, Paul Friel, was showing us footage from a press conference he did, a rally to promote access to books for public school children in Pennsylvania. And I think that this exact type of cultural literacy moment, this full circle moment where you remember something that you did as a child that comes back in your adulthood is why it's so important to maintain access for kids to have those books. Because again, if you graduate from high school and never read another book in your life, you are going to need to draw on what you were able to access. But I do want to thank librarians like you. I want to thank my own English teacher and English teachers everywhere who are making sure that people read books like these so that they appreciate these cultural literacy aspects and keep them with us. And I'd like to thank our own public librarians here who I look today and there are available copies of this book at the Braddock Public Library if you want to read it. I've been rereading some books that I read as a kid recently. You know, things hit differently as an adult. So I plan on rereading this book as an adult because I imagine I'm going to get a lot of things out of it as an adult that I did not get out of it as a child. So thank you so much for coming today to honor this really important element of our culture and our literacy in District 34. Thank you so much.
Out of this furnace over here, and they are all free, so if you would like to grab one before you leave, please take one with you. So our next speaker is Dr. Nick Coles, who is from the University of Pittsburgh.
Thank you very much. This is such an gratifying event to see this novel and Thomas Bellick's author honored in this way. I don't know how many of those 2,600 markers around the state are dedicated to a writer and a work of literature, but it's just wonderful that because this is a unique contribution, as you said, to American literature. Probably you can tell from my accent, I'm not from around here. I came to Pittsburgh to take up a job in the English department there that included teaching a course called Working Class Literature. And that was in 1980. And I had my specialty was actually in the novels of the Industrial Revolution in the north of England, where I'm from, in the middle of the 19th century. I didn't know what I was going to teach to students who I quickly realized most of whom were going to be American. And also a large number of them, it turned out, back in those days at Pitt, probably more than half of the students were from Western Pennsylvania, and many were members of the first generation in their family to go to college. So I was asking around, what am I going to teach? And I met a young Slovak American poet named Peter Oresek. Some of you may know him and his work. And he had taken a course called Working Class Literature in which they read out of this furnace. This was 1980, so it had only been published, 4 years earlier. So that was the beginning of a relationship with that book, which has lasted ever since. I was trying to figure out how many times I think I may have taught it over the 40 years that I was teaching Working Class Literature at Pitt, at least 20 or more. And in fact, I retired 3 years ago and I can't stop teaching it. I've just recently taught a course on the book in the OSHA Lifelong Learning Program, in which a group of old-timers and myself spent, other old-timers like myself, spent 5 weeks reading the novel slowly, part by part, and sharing the responses, the experiences that it brought up for us historical and family memories for many of them, and so forth. And that was partly one of the reasons that the novel was so successful. In my undergraduate classes, it remained as a staple just about every time I taught working class literature. And it was a key text in the building up of that field. I mean, you can imagine some of the prejudices that were against the notion that literature was being written by working class people.
Doe Mike up here, she just recently retired from United Steelworkers, and she made the short film that many of our students watched clips from in class. So, Stephanie.
Thank you. It's a great honor for me to be here and talk to you a little bit. A lot of what I would say has already been said, but I also wanted to emphasize the organizing, that this novel is really a call for union organizing, for labor organizing, and these are things that we often don't actually say out loud in public. That the exploitation of work, the work that people have to do, if it's dirty, if it's unhealthy, if it's repetitive and leads to injuries and madness, that can be overcome. That together we can build a better world, and together we can build an organization to represent us, to make work possible and livable and life better. And this novel really makes that happen in a very personal way, as Nick has been noting, in a way that makes you really understand the origins of the urge to join a union, to make a union, to make life better. So I urge everybody to sort of think about this novel through that lens, because that's really the lens through which it is written. Dobie in the end, the main character at the end, the final main character, we could say, becomes a union organizer. He really is calling for people to join together and make life better. And through that sort of the story of immigrants leaving an unhospitable land to come to America, living in hope that life could get better, it takes 3 generations for that to really come to fruition. And I think it's a wonderful call to action. So as the labor educator that I am, I want to urge you to think about this as that call. And the other thing I want to also repeat from Nick, I knew Nick and I were going to tread on each other, but that was good, because talking about Dave Demarest, for those of us who remember him and loved him and worked with him, he was also a mentor of mine. I came out of working at US Steel at Clairton and made a video called Women of Steel, and Dave answered the call for academics to stand with us and help us raise the money, and stuck with me as a filmmaker and artist, and helped me to sort of keep going. We produced a show called Labor's Corner on QEX, when there was a QEX, a sister to WQED. And it was through that experience that he and I put together the walking tour. And walking was one of Dave's methods of understanding a place. You can read all you want about a place, but until you walk the streets of that place, you don't know it. And Dave was sort of, the story I heard from Marlene, his wife, was that he really didn't like being in Pittsburgh. You know, when he got to Carnegie Mellon, is a wonderful institution and a great job to have, but he sort of was like, I'm in Pittsburgh, I could be in New York, I could be in London, but why am I in Pittsburgh? And then he had a sabbatical and took it in London, and decided he didn't know London very well, so he decided to use Charles Dickens as his guide, and read the novels of Dickens and walked the novels of Dickens, and realized that he learned so much walking London through Dickens' view, his voice. And then he took that as a lesson and began to walk the streets, Braddock being one, but also Millvale, where he discovered the murals of Max Ovanka on a walk. He was walking through Millvale and talked to somebody, and they said, what are you doing? I like to walk and find out what I can about a place. And they said, well, have you seen the murals up in St. Nicholas? And he was like, no, never heard of them. He walked up there, and he's also credited with bringing those to a more public view, helping to preserve them.